What's going on, everybody? Economic Prepper here. Hope everyone is doing well. I've got some updates and some information I want to share with you, and I hope you and your families are prepared for what is coming our way. Got a lot going on today, and a lot of people are already calling this potentially the perfect storm. So we obviously have Hurricane Ian coming up the coast, heading toward Florida, and many Florida residents are already preparing for what could potentially be a very, very deadly hurricane coming our way. Now, that's just one piece of it. We've also got Fed Chair Jerome Powell hitting us from another angle, another storm, but this is more of an economic storm. This is the type of storm that we were warned about from the likes of JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon, where not too long ago he warned us of an economic hurricane. So yeah, we've got a lot to cover in today's video, and we on the bright side to it, we did hear from President Biden. He has already approved the emergency declaration for Florida. Says that FEMA is already prepared for Hurricane Ian, and this is actually a pretty quick response from the Biden administration. As Hurricane Ian threatens Florida, President Joe Biden approved Governor Ron DeSantis's request for federal emergency declaration ahead of the storm. So hopefully we have some resources out there to Floridians, and honestly, hopefully things related to this hurricane are not nearly as bad as we are anticipating, but it's not looking all that good right now. I really hope that my community is prepared. Comment down below if you are from Florida, and let me know what you guys are seeing, boots on the ground. What is it like right now? Is it pretty calm in the stores, or are you kind of seeing like lines running out the door as people are stockpiling supplies, trying to get ready for the impact of this hurricane? Let me know what you guys are seeing out there. Are you seeing a change in prices? Have prices gone up? Because that's kind of what I would expect, especially, stores like, wherever you might purchase supplies from, grocery stores, Costco, Walmart, local mom and pop stores. Let me know what you guys are seeing, and let me know what you guys are seeing in the parking lots, because I got a feeling that inside the stores and in the parking lots it might get kind of crazy, especially as people get off of work. Once the sun goes down and it's dark, I really don't even know what to expect out there. I hope everyone is remaining civil. I'll just leave it at that. Florida Costco runs out of toilet paper and paper towels as well. And I'm even getting reports that they're rationing water. They're rationing the number of containers or packs of water that you can purchase. They're potentially even rationing the toilet paper. So they're rationing supplies is what I'm being told. So you guys confirm what you're seeing. But I've read that there is a store. I don't know if all of the Costco's are doing this. I don't know if it's just certain cities, but basically some Costco's, or at least one, is imposing the purchase limits on cases of bottled water, and they've posted signs throughout the store alerting customers both outside and inside the store. So at least before you come inside the store that they're rationing the water already, which it makes sense. I mean, some people are stockpiling for their family, but then other people are just over stockpiling and not leaving enough supplies for other families who also need to prepare. But hopefully our community is prepared for the most part, and maybe you don't have to go out and shop too much to put yourself in a good position. And I hope you guys are also in a good economic financial position, because many families may need the wherewithal to be able to just completely evacuate from the state, and this would likely incur a tremendous amount of expense. I think this is largely why a lot of families traditionally in Florida tend to hunker down and try to survive the storms as they blow through. But unfortunately, many lives end up being lost as a result of that. Now, we always talk about economic preparedness. That's really where I like to focus. But if you think about it, it's kind of like, okay, this is kind of like one of those times where you need your emergency fund. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have those, but you may have to evacuate depending upon where in Florida you are. This might require you to, pack the entire family's, belongings up, that, just the essentials, hop in the car, drive north, perhaps. I'm not really sure how far away from, where you live you may have to move or temporarily relocate. But, you'd likely, hopefully you could stay with a relative, and that would cut down expenses. That would cut down your costs. But if you don't have a relative that you could stay with, I mean, maybe all of your relatives are in Florida. So then, no one's really able to help you because everyone's in the same boat. And so everyone has to leave, perhaps. And so that would mean, maybe incurring hotel expenses, or maybe even Airbnb, a place that is in a safe location away from Hurricane Ian. And unfortunately, many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now and may not necessarily have the available limit or space available on their credit cards to support purchasing a hotel ticket, or to support purchasing an Airbnb stay for multiple nights, including the family. And then, of course, you would need to purchase meals, food, restaurant visits, perhaps. Who knows? But of course, if I were in that situation, I probably wouldn't be hitting the restaurants. I'd probably, go to a local grocery store, do as much at-home cooking as much as I could. But yeah, so that's kind of what a lot of families are going to be facing. Also, as more and more people are evacuating out of Florida, I would expect that gas prices would be going through the roof. And I don't think that we're seeing the gas prices jump up just yet. But if you haven't fueled up, now might not be a bad time to prepare for increased fuel prices, as this is generally what we would expect. I don't think that there's any oil refineries in Florida, so that's one good thing. But one bad thing is the fact that there are no oil refineries in Florida. And I know it sounds like, what did you just say? Yeah. So if there's no oil refineries in Florida, that would generally make it much more expensive for truck drivers to be able to deliver fuel and gas for much of the state of Florida. So you guys can, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that I'm aware of. I don't believe that there's any oil refineries in Florida. So on the one side of the spectrum is like, okay, well, if there's no oil refineries in Florida, hopefully that means that oil refineries won't be damaged or shut down as a result of Hurricane Ian or the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. But Chevron, BP, they each shut down output at 2 platforms in the U.S. Gulf as Hurricane Ian approaches. So, even if you're not an economics major, what we've learned over the last 2 years is that, the demand and the supply and demand will dictate prices. So as Chevron and BP have shut down the output of 2 of their platforms in the United States, in the Gulf, as Hurricane Ian approaches, that means that supply is going down. And as we're seeing the very high likelihood that there could be a mass evacuation to some extent out of Florida, that would drive up fuel demand. And as that demand is increasing, we're also seeing the output from the oil platforms from Chevron and BP being shut down, or at least reducing the output. You're increasing demand, you're decreasing the supply. We could easily see a huge, very unexpected spike in fuel and gas prices, and heck, even potentially gas and fuel shortages, depending upon how severe the shutdown is and for how long the shutdown is, how much fuel is actually going to be burned up by, many of the residents who are staying local, but many residents who are attempting to evacuate the state. But thankfully, President Biden has approved the emergency declaration for Florida. And he says that FEMA's prepared to handle whatever is going on at this time. But a Costco warehouse in Florida has completely already run out of certain essential items as residents brace for Hurricane Ian. And it's the 4th storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. But, this and we're not even halfway through this hurricane season. So it's looking pretty bad out there. You guys let me know what you're seeing in these different stores. But My prayers and thoughts and concerns go out to all the residents of Florida. I hope that you guys are prepared. And if it looks like, based on what I'm reading, I'm not a Florida resident. It appears that Tampa may be one of the areas hit the hardest. Not quite sure about that. Ian was forecast to hit the western tip of Cuba as a major hurricane and then became an even stronger Category 4 with top winds of 140 miles an hour over the Gulf of Mexico waters before hitting Florida. So we're already hearing about Florida residents lining up for hours in Tampa just to collect bags of sand. And they're emptying store shelves, completely just empty shelves in the stores of bottled water. Shortly after Ron DeSantis issued the statewide emergency. So, Florida residents are buying up the paper towels, the toilet paper, and we've seen this before. They're buying up the emergency supply kits, and but families are attempting to get stocked up. But the scary part is some people just overstock and it doesn't leave enough supply for everyone who needs. So hopefully everyone will be mindful of others and attempt to be helpful to, other families who are also desperately in need of supplies. But I also wanted to briefly talk about the Fed and their plans to sharply boost unemployment, which is weird that the Fed Reserve's goal is to increase unemployment. That's generally something you're trying to avoid, but unfortunately the Fed is actually trying to crash. They're trying to crash the economy. They're trying to crash the job market. They're trying to crash the housing market, and they're in the process of crashing the stock market. I mean, heck, we've even currently seen and are actually experiencing a crash of the cryptocurrency market. So all markets are effectively under fire. Fed Chair Jerome Powell made this abundantly clear last week when the central bank projected their benchmark rate hitting 4.4% by the end of the year, even if it causes a recession, which I'm willing to bet that most people watching this video probably would agree with me that we're probably already in a recession right now. And he said, Jerome Powell of the Federal Reserve said that there will likely be some softening of the labor market conditions. And I think that's going to be an understatement, very much like they said that inflation would be transitory. And that was clearly an understatement. So things are going to get a whole lot worse. And given the fact that we're right around we're about 3%, maybe 3.25% on the Fed funds rate, and their target is to rise to 4.4% next year. Excuse me. The target is to hit the benchmark rate of 4.4% by the end of this year. I'm expecting more rate hikes to come, and this is going to drive up rental prices, and things could get bad, especially in Florida as Hurricane Ian is on its way. It's very likely to do quite a bit of damage to real estate and housing, maybe even apartments out in Florida. And unfortunately, insurance companies they're having a tough time right now. Some insurance companies are borderline solvent. And if Hurricane Ian does any kind of damage, number one, it could potentially put some people out of a home. There may be some short-term homelessness. This could affect renters as well as homeowners. But there's always a delay between the disaster, whether it's a tornado, a hurricane, earthquake, drought, not really so much a drought, but, a typhoon, whatever the case is. There's a delay between the disaster itself, the assessment of the disaster, getting families to safety, and then getting insurance claims processed, approved, and then finally work can ultimately be done. But some of these insurance companies, I'm fearful, or I don't want to say fearful, I'm a little concerned as to whether or not they're going to be able to cover any kind of massive amount of claims that could potentially be filed depending upon the severity of this hurricane. So now if that happens, whether it happens or not, but whether the insurance companies can afford to cover all the damages and the repairs, the scary thing is where are the people going to live for the types of situations where homes are inhabitable. So families may need to temporarily rent somewhere else, even if they're already renting. They may have to rent somewhere else. If you're a homeowner, you may have to rent somewhere else, even if you're owning your own home, because maybe you can't live in your house because it flooded, maybe tore off the roof. I don't know. But that's going to drive up the rental market for homes that are not damaged. And so what do you think is going to happen with rent prices? I mean, I would imagine rent prices are going to go up. And hopefully the businesses in the surrounding areas aren't too damaged and that they can actually function. Because if not, you're going to have a significant spike in demand for rent, driving up rent prices. Then businesses that may or may not be able to be open, if they can't open or if they can't stay open and generate a profit, then, some employees may not be called in for work. And I'm not saying employees would be fired, but, in a lot of cases, especially retail, I mean, they're already trying to push retail workers out the door. If you hadn't noticed, with all the self-checkouts and all of the automation and AI that's being pushed out to effectively reduce and eliminate the retail worker. But, if Best Buy, for example, is flooded, if Sam's Club, if Costco, if Walmart is flooded out, if the roofs have been torn off these buildings, they're not going to call employees to come into work. I'm willing to bet that. And so hourly employees would literally just be sitting at home, losing money every single day if they can't go back to work, on top of the fact that they may need to rent somewhere else because their current home, depending upon the condition of the current home. Now, not trying to spread fear. I'm just looking at the possibilities of where this thing can go. And I'm hoping you guys, my viewers, to think about what could potentially come down the pipeline so that you can hopefully get ahead of this thing. Possibly, reach out to some family members, maybe in neighboring states, depending upon, how bad this thing is. But, maybe get something set up. So hopefully you don't have to, stay in a hotel and waste hundreds of dollars a night in a hotel. Hopefully you could stay with family. Even better case scenario would be this thing just completely dies down, blows over, and doesn't even hit Florida. But, obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, things are getting rough here. And you've got Hurricane Ian, and then you've got the Fed, right? So meanwhile, the Fed's existing rate hikes have put about 800,000 job losses in the pipeline. And this is just crazy because these are the early onsets of the Fed's actions. We're only like 6 or 7 months into the Fed rate hikes. So when we look at 2023, like we see almost no net hiring for the first quarter and job losses of over 800,000 or even 900,000 people in the second and third quarter combined. And, this is coming from top economists. This is coming from top U.S. economists, and others are even predicting an even harder landing. The Fed says they're aiming for a soft landing of the U.S. economy with their rate hikes, but who knows what's going to happen, really? I mean, I don't even think that they know what's going to happen. They can forecast, they can predict, but it ends up being a best educated guess for them. And others are even predicting an even harder landing, with Bank of America expecting a peak unemployment rate of 5.6% next year. So that will put an additional 3.5 million people out of work, above today's unemployment levels already. So, definitely have some storms brewing right now. Hurricane Ian, the Fed crisis, the rising of the interest rates, the housing market, stock market, cryptocurrency market, empty shelves in some of the Costco's already. So we may have to have a period of hunkering down, but I'm still going to remain optimistic. I think we can make it through here. I hope you guys are getting value out of these videos. And if you made it this far, drop a like for the video. You guys be safe. Take care.